Hi friends, Father Carey here, and this is another Holy Spirit moment. This one asking the question, is the soul immortal? Many of us today think that the soul is immortal, and we think that it's immortal because somehow it is intrinsically immortal. That is, it possesses within itself the inherent quality of immortality, of never dyingness. But that's not always been the belief among Christians. Back in the mid-20th century, a new way of thinking about theology arose in Catholic circles. It came to be known as the ressourcement movement. Ressourcement is French meaning back to the sources. This particular movement had it that too often we have allowed ourselves to be seduced by abstract theologies. What we really need to do in order to touch base, as it were, with our faith tradition is to go back and read the Patristic and early Church Fathers. They, after all, were closest to the Christ event that serves as the foundation of the faith. So what were their insights and their interpretations? What did they think about what was going on with them almost immediately following the Christ event? If we can explore what they thought, then perhaps we can cut through all of the layers and layers of 21 centuries of theologizing for a fresher, clearer understanding of the roots of our faith. Now, if one reads the Patristic and early Church Fathers on immortality, one discovers that they did not believe, as we tend to believe today, that the soul is inherently or intrinsically immortal. No, not at all. And here's their argument. Everything that God creates is contingent. It comes into being and it passes away. Otherwise, as St. Justin Martyr in the early 2nd century said, it would be God. No, all creaturely things have a definite lifespan. And if the soul has been created by God, and it has been, then it too is contingent. It too has a designated lifespan. The early Fathers argued that if we think otherwise, if we believe that the soul is inherently immortal, it's because we've been influenced by Greek philosophy, particularly by the philosophy of Plato. In at least two of his dialogues, the Phaedo on the one hand and the Phaedrus on the other, Plato more than suggests that souls are intrinsically immortal and that when the body dies, the soul just passes on to another body. He called this the transmigration of souls doctrine. Today we would probably call it something like reincarnation, although the two aren't completely identical. So if we believe as Christians that the soul is inherently immortal, it's because we've allowed Greek philosophy, according to the early Church Fathers, to corrupt our faith. So, does that mean that they believe that the soul dies when the body dies? Well, not necessarily. Here's their argument for that. During this lifetime, you and I can take one of two paths. We can strive for a relationship with God that brings us closer and closer to God, that enriches the image of God in which we are born. We can strive for godliness. And the closer we come to godliness, the more godlike we become. And the more godlike we become, the more we open ourselves to God's grace. And the more all of that happens, the better are our chances of immortality. Because to be godlike is to be immortal. But the other path that we can take as human beings is a path of sin and dissolution and spiritual disintegration, in which we move further and further away from God, further and further away from godliness, further and further away from godlikeness, closing ourselves off to the ever-offered grace that God extends to us, such that we become so distant from godlikeness that when the body dies, the soul dies with it. It's not that the soul survives because it's intrinsically immortal and hence goes to hell. No, it just, as it were, winks out because it did not cultivate God-likeness during its mortal existence. That's a really different and interesting way of thinking about things, isn't it? And it seems to me to make a great deal of sense, my friends, at least for these reasons. It bypasses the rather thorny doctrine of hell, which so many of us find offensive. What sins could we possibly commit that would warrant an eternity of physical and spiritual torment? It avoids the thorny position of universalism. The universalist says that eventually, in God's own good time, everyone is saved. All souls are granted immortality in heaven. But that seems to offend our sense of fairness and justice. And it also allows us to recognize that what we do in life is extremely, crucially important for not only our spiritual well-being in this life, but also for the possibility of living forever with God after this life. So, is the soul immortal? Well, the Patristic and early church fathers would say, it depends, for the reasons that I've just given you. Now, this position may be so unusual to our contemporary mind that you may think I'm making it up, but I want to promise you that I'm not. And so I'd like to close by reading you 3 short excerpts from 3 different fathers that speak to the dependency of the soul's immortality on the way in which it relates to God in the mortal life. Let me put that a slightly different way. The soul's immortality isn't intrinsic, but instead is a function of its relationship with God. So, here are the 3 people who I would like to share with you their thoughts. The first is Irenaeus. These are all from the 2nd century, by the way. This is what Irenaeus says. All things that have been made had a beginning when they were formed, but they endure as long as God wills that they should have an existence and continuance. Life does not arise from us, nor from our own nature, but it is bestowed according to the grace of God. And therefore he who shall preserve the life bestowed upon him and give thanks to him who imparted it shall receive also length of days forever and ever. But he who shall reject it and prove himself ungrateful to his Maker, inasmuch as he has been created and has not recognized him who created him, deprives himself of the privilege of continuance forever and ever. The soul, once again, has its immortality as a function of its relationship with the divine, not as an intrinsic quality. Here's the 2nd century father, Tatian. The soul is not in itself immortal, O Greeks, but mortal. Yet it is possible for it not to die. If indeed it knows not the truth, it dies. But again, if it acquires the knowledge of God, it dies not. And by truth and knowledge of God, clearly what Tatian means is growing in godlikeness, growing in godliness. And then the final passage that I would like to share with you is one of the most intriguing to my mind. It's from the 2nd century Theophilus of Antioch. Theophilus was a bishop. This is what he says. But someone will say to us, was man made by nature mortal? Certainly not. Was he then immortal? Neither do we affirm this. But one will say, was he then nothing? Not even this hits the mark. He was by nature neither mortal nor immortal. For if he had made him immortal from the beginning, he, meaning God, would have made him God. Again, if God had made him mortal, God would seem to be the cause of his death. Neither then immortal nor yet mortal did God make him, but as capable of both. So that if he should incline to the things of immortality, keeping the commandment of God, he should receive as reward from him immortality. But if, on the other hand, he should turn to the things of death, disobeying God, he should himself be the cause of death to himself. God does not deprive us of freedom. God's grace can only work in cooperation with how we choose to live our lives. And how we choose to live our lives affects not only the here and now, but also affects the hereafter. Our challenge is to choose well. Choose life or choose death. Friends, this has been another Holy Spirit moment. Thank you so much for watching. If you are of a mind, I invite you to subscribe to this series. At any rate, I'll see you again real soon. Take care. God bless.